Hi, friends. So, once again, we're still looking at building and managing teams. Okay, effective teams. I always use the word effective teams, not any type of teams, but building and managing an effective team. Okay, you will agree with me that communication plays a key role in any management activity that we undertake. So, in terms of managing an organizational team or groups or building a team, communication will play a key part in it. All right. So at this point, we'll shift into chapter 8 of the text, which looks at how we can manage organizational relationships, leveraging on communication skills. Okay, leveraging on communication. So I'll share my slide, and again, we'll split this into two parts to be sure we can get a concise and quite straightforward understanding of this. Once again, I will reiterate that this is a summary. You have the core text, okay, and the context gives us far deeper understanding. All right. So there is always a noise which works or which tries to it serves like a lurking variable under the entire communication system. Now, noise we know is anything that interferes with an effective communication process. So if you want to get rid of this noise, what do we do? What I want us to understand is that noise in itself it can be categorized into different ways. Okay, anything that interferes with the effective communication system that prevents me from understanding what the message is about, or that even interferes with the sender's intent of what he's sending, is considered noise. If we are not able to communicate as it is intended to be, it is noise. When I'm speaking, I'm teaching, I'm lecturing, I'm discussing some ideas and it doesn't convey the right meaning to you as the receiver and from me as a sender, it is noise. It is noise, okay? Noise can have various forms. We have the environmental and physical noise. These ones they interrupt the communication and prevent the receiver from hearing or receiving the message clearly. Okay, loud music. We are teaching them there's loud music. There's a siren blowing outside there. Phones are ringing and chatting loudly. Difficult to read. These are physical environmental noise. Okay, they can disrupt the meaning, the intended meaning. Then we have the physiological noise. Okay, it talks of the physical barriers within the sender or the receiver that causes the message to have trouble getting through. Okay, that's the physiological. Okay, so maybe I have a hearing impairment or a visual issue, okay, poor eyesight, poor speech impairment. That's physiological, okay. It's different from the physical. Physical, those things in the environment that will distract hearing or understanding. Physiological, that has to do with the sender or the person, his physiology, okay, his physique. And then we have semantic noise. Semantic noise deals with where the receiver or sender has different understanding of the word. Semantics from the word English. Semantics. So I speak in such a way that even my accent, maybe if I'm not careful, I'm supposed to mention the word refuse and I'll be using the word refuse. And that alone can disrupt the meaning of the word. Okay. So we're talking of using jargons, technical jargons, okay, languages, dialects. Accent can even come in. All right. Then we have the psychological noise. Here, we are talking of the attitude of the sender or the receiver. So if I'm angry, I'm sad. If you're not careful, whatever you tell me, I will not be listening to it in the right with the right frame of mind. Okay. If I am prejudiced against you, playing some form of tribalism, racism, then once you stand there and you are speaking just because of your color, just because your accent betrays you, I discriminate. And totally psychological, I don't get to understand what you mean. All right. An effective communication process is understood to have five, usually six, but five. The sixth one tends to provide a feedback loop. Okay. So in the first instance, we have the receiver, if you can see from the diagram. Okay. The sender will have a message that he drafts, okay, he has got some message to send. He will now encrypt the message or encode it and send it in the form of words, okay, written words, oral words, okay. Then he will transmit it through an email, a text message, a phone call, a letter, a meeting we hold. Then the receiver on the other end will decode the encrypted message to have a better understanding. He will process it, okay, to be able to understand what it means. That's the decoding element. And then at the end of the day, he receives, he understands after he has decoded. The best thing here to do is that if I reply to your original message, I'm giving you feedback, right? If I get back to you with my import, with what I understand, with what I think is the meaning conveyed, if I get back to you with the need for further clarifications, that's the feedback. That becomes the sixth stage. So we always say that any effective communication system must have the feedback portion to make it complete replies to the original message, and then the whole process starts again. Under it, like I said, on the background is always some noise over there. There are some barriers to communication which we want to look at. Okay, there could be distortion. Okay, so where the meaning of the message is lost in translation because maybe I'm using some technical words, some jargons. I'm using some words which could have anything to do with semantics as well, ambiguous words. Misinterpretation of symbols and signs could be a clear-cut barrier to communication. Okay. We also have noise, like I mentioned. Anything that interferes totally with the entire communication process is noise. Normally, as a second variable. It could be physical, the environment, loud noise. It could be physiological, my physique, hearing impairment, aid issues, visual aid issues, okay? It could also be issues with psychological, my attitude, and it can also be semantics, noise. This could all result in barriers to communication. And again, when there is misunderstanding in the entire communication process, that could also serve as a barrier to communication. Sometimes I have clearly communicated, but for all you know, somebody doesn't understand what I'm saying. Now we have nonverbal signs which contradict the verbal language. And we could also look at failure to give or to seek feedback. They will also amount to what? Barriers to communication. Then we have overload. Is it too complex? I've had situations where I've provided lecture slides and students say information overload. When you overload students with so much information, you distort the real meaning. Okay. So try to give your audience the right amount of information. No complexity. Look at their level of understanding and make sure that they can better decode the message you are giving them. All right. Again, we could also have another barrier to communication, which is the perceptual selection. Okay. In terms of perceptual selection, we are talking of what do I want to hear? What do I want to see? If I go to the Facebook, well, I'm just going to the Facebook market to look out for a particular item. If I go to the videos, I want to watch a specific. What do I want to hear? Selective. Okay. So we talk of Facebook games, okay, and talk of anything. Some people go to Twitter account and they want a specific message to hear. There could also be differences, racial backgrounds, ethnic backgrounds, educational backgrounds, could also pose threats to effective communication. All right. So language is one key item. Okay, language, dialect, depending on my background. If you're not careful, sometimes my accent alone can give me up, and somebody wouldn't like to hear me talk again. Poor communication skills is also very important. Are you using the right words in the right context? You can use the word remote or primitive. And if you're not careful using the word primitive British or primitive Scottish or primitive Ghanaian, and if you're not careful, that alone can cause a lot of problems for you. Okay. So be careful your communication skills. Master it. It's a skill. It's like driving. Master it over time. Writing is a skill. Communicating orally is a skill. Okay. Sometimes you hear people say, this guy knows how to talk because he's practiced it over time. All right. The status is also very important. Pay too much attention to what senior managers say rather than junior colleagues. Is that what you're doing in the workplace? You think the junior colleagues could not give you any important information or message? Okay, be careful. The junior colleagues will one day end up becoming high senior managers, and what will happen? Okay, and then priorities. Again, when we have clear communication, we normally will look at a situation where it is seen in the light by both parties. Everyone pays attention to it. Not that one person pays attention, the other doesn't pay. Okay, so but what if something is of a priority to one person and it's not to the other person? It becomes a matter of choice. Okay, so of course, sometimes you're presenting a case or you're presenting an oratory, and somebody will just wait till at a certain point, then he pays a very key attention because that's the point he needs, not the rest. He considers that as a jargon. So in that case, all the earlier information you've given doesn't serve any purpose to him. For all you know, that is where the key point is. But he's more interested in the point that he came to at the latter end. Okay, so priorities could also change. So in a real case, workplace, you see, marketing guys are just waiting to hear their information on the customer orientation, promotional issues, marketing, market penetration, and market segmentation. That's what they are listening, waiting for. Finance guys are just waiting to hear when they can roll out with their accounting transactions and postings. So when you're talking anything about marketing, they are not interested. And then I talk of, again, then we have selective reporting, okay, where you send incomplete information or you receive incomplete information due to the perception that there's no time, okay. So here we prevent managers receiving too much information by selecting what is important to them. Okay, so you ask yourself, for example, when students tell me that you're giving me so much information, and some also said you are giving us the right amount of information, you ask yourself, which one do you give to them? Do you prune it down? Okay, so it becomes sometimes complex, okay, because you're not too sure whether the information you are sending out will be overload or will be selective reporting. Okay, let's move on. Again, the use of the information itself could pose a threat, okay? The use of the communication. So if managers make decisions based on a hunch, okay, they are rushing, okay, then the communication process, we can say, could be followed through fully or not, okay. If I have a repeat behavior of this kind, if I'm not careful, it could restrict or constrict the information I send, or it could equally enhance it, okay. So managers could make decisions without asking for all the relevant information, and that could pose some threats. Some are clever, some are clever. They could still use the little information to articulate their points and they'll get it right. Timing of the information is also important. Okay. So here I'm telling you this while I remember, but we need to catch up on this before the end of the term. That's poor communication. So you're giving the information now because you think you'll forget some point in time. That's not good. Okay. So make sure you send the information at the right time. Not too early, not too late, at the right time. Then we're talking of opportunity, okay? This is especially true when we are conveying difficult or unpleasant messages within an organization. There's going to be a restructuring. People will lose their jobs. How do you communicate it? What is the right time? Whistleblower is also a very key one, okay? Very good example. And another example could be where a lecturer will say, asking if something has been understood. Do you understand what I'm saying? And the student might not want to keep saying no to appear that he's dumb. So you keep asking, do you understand? And they said yes. They just say yes so that you can go away. Okay. So opportunity is very important. the scope of the information, okay, and then the kind of content you convey is very important. Conflict could also serve as a threat or barrier to communication. So when I'm at loggerheads with you, if you're not careful, whatever information you say, I will not listen. I will not listen. Secrecy organizations could also adopt a need to know basis. So I tell you what you need to know, the rest will go to the other guys. And if I find out on the other end that the information you give to the other guys pertains to me, I really need it, it could distort the whole communication process. Okay. And then again, we also look at the values. Okay, the values. Certain messages may be deemed incompatible with the organization's values. For example, we don't want to hear bad news. Always tell us good news. Even if it is bad, concoct it, cook it to become good. The organizational values. Okay, that is quite an interesting point to know. And you will always find this in barriers to effective risk culture in the organization. Okay. Okay, something is happening to my screen. Oh boy. Okay. All right, let's move on. Now, let's wrap up with digital communication. Since email was first introduced sometime in 1970s, we have said that digital communication has taken over the communication landscape, okay, environment. Today, we always send in emails, chats, messages, encoded voice messages here and there. So digital communication has taken over. We have the internet. In the workplace, we have intranet. You can chat. I think we have Google Hangout or something. We always use these in the workplace. Digital communication has become the order of the day, hasn't it? Yes, it has. Today, you use Moodle or you use Aula or use any VLE, and you could easily chat, put your post on the feed, and somebody will get the email pop up. That's what has happened in our world today. So today we have blogs. Blogs. So you could get blogs, you could go onto your blogs and get some internal information, feeds. Forums are there. We have private chat messaging systems. Okay. We have discussion forums. Okay. We even have in the I'm using Zoom, for example, to record my audio, my videos, then post it. So Zoom is also one of the digital communication channels. Microsoft Teams could be used. People are using Kahoot, okay? Skype, all are examples of the software business ecosystems that we use today to enhance communication. Okay. All right. So I will leave it here for us to move on to the next item. So communication is key, friends. We need it, and we must be sure we convey the right information at the right time. People understand it in the workplace. And this is practical in real life. You don't need any theory to support this. You can easily brainstorm and you could get what we mean over there. I end it here. I'll see you in the next bit. The next bit looks a little technical, but we'll be fine. And again, it's based on chapter 8 of our core text. Thanks for now. Bye.